Prabhupada wasn't like that. He had only one life. He was, and the thing that impressed me again and again, every time I met him, that Prabhupada was exactly like his books. When you read the book, and when you were in the presence of Prabhupada and he spoke, and you had some exchange, it was exactly like the book. There was no difference. But any other person, there's always this other side. And that was so disarming. As soon as you came in, you with a host of your head full of problems. As soon as you came in, they evaporated. So everything is all right? Oh yes, Prabhupada, yeah. As soon as you walk out the door, you're puzzled again. Isn't it? Puzzled. In London, have you been in the London Manor Temple? The Manor, you know, that big room, Prabhupada. So he's sitting at that end against those leaded windows, and he had that table. One day I come in, and Himavati's sitting behind the table with Prabhupada on the cushion. And she has his hand in her hand, and she's doing palm reading on Prabhupada. Prabhupada's saying, well, what about this line? What does this mean? Oh, Prabhupada, that's your headline. Oh, you have a very good headline. And they go and they're going on like that very casually, as if they were thick and thin friends. So Himavati was related to Prabhupada completely different than I was. He was very affectionate to her, very friendly. And it wasn't an artificial or imposition. She was naturally at home with him, whereas I was, awe and reverence. Awe and reverence. With every person, even when Shamsunda, I explained earlier, he brought this host of celebrities, I noticed that with each person, Prabhupada greeted him differently. Like with Lord Brockway, who was a government official and a respectable, some supposed respectable gentleman. Prabhupada personally went to the door and opened it up when he came and walked him, sat him down. But with others, but he didn't do that with everyone. So with everyone he related just exactly. And Prabhupada could be very cutting also. He was very gentle and smiling and soft and sometimes patronizing. No. There were times while he was giving darshans, and say, well, what about Jesus? And Prabhupada would just say, you follow Jesus? You follow Buddha? Or you just talk? Oh, you just talk. Don't talk. He could be very... I met a man in Palo Alto some years ago. I was looking for a storefront in the better section of town. He had an art gallery. So as I was kind of browsing around, he said, oh, you're a follower of Swami Prabhupada? I said, yes, how do you know? He said, oh, I see your beads. He said, I met Swami Prabhupada at Palo Alto University in I think he was there in 67 or 66. I said, really? Tell me about it. He said, oh yes, he was the most unforgettable man I ever met. I said, how is that? What did you discuss? He said, yes, after the lecture, then we discussed. And I said, I was complaining about the government. And Prabhupada said, no, you cannot complain. You elected, you cannot complain. And the man said, but I kept saying, but I didn't elect him. And Prabhupada said, no, you elected him. That is your system. You cannot complain. And he said, he simply wouldn't allow me to get off this point. You elected, therefore you are responsible. The thing that made it possible for a person like me to have the association that I had with Prabhupada and to perform the service that I performed was the fact that Prabhupada responded to enthusiasm. He did not respond to material qualifications like scholarship or even expertise in a particular field. Enthusiasm was the one factor that eclipsed everything else. If that enthusiasm was alive, if that enthusiasm was genuine, then there was no limit. In fact, I mean, in my own case, I was not educated, right? And not experienced professionally in any way. And even not an American. I was actually born in Germany. And I was also married. But Prabhupada gave me so many opportunities, so many responsible engagements, whereas other persons under material circumstances would have been given such responsibilities. And we saw that not only in myself, I saw it in the case of Guru Kripa, so many, Madhavisa. Anyone who had enthusiasm and determination, they were, I mean, Prabhupada looked to them to carry the ball. And of course we see that even in material life, right? But the enthusiasm alone, it wasn't left, in its raw state. Prabhupada trained it or focused it and purified it. So the things that we did for Prabhupada were done under his guidance. He would simply say, do this. Like I remember, he wrote me like, why are my books not being printed in Germany? And I'm thinking, well, I can hardly speak German at the 10-year-old level. How, I can't translate them. And then I understood, Prabhupada wants his books translated into German. So I had to figure out how to do that. And so I wrote him, well, what do I do? He said, you chant Hare Krishna and Krishna will give you intelligence. That was almost always the answer I got. Prabhupada wasn't the type of manager or leader who would detail it out for you. He would inspire you to use your creative intelligence. In fact, Prabhupada said that every living entity, has individual genius. There's a kind of genius that everyone has. When I looked up the word genius in the dictionary, it means indwelling deity. Genius is not something I or you or anyone possesses. Genius really means Krishna. So if we make ourselves receptive to Krishna, the inflow of Krishna, by the inspiration of the spiritual master, then that genius or Krishna reveals how a thing should be done. Like in the case of Brahmananda tells a story how Prabhupada asked him to go to Macmillan and give him the manuscript, and he was hesitant, like, Macmillan's a big company, come on. So, but when we submitted to his direction, combined with the chanting and the philosophy and the entire process, or the treatment as Prabhupada sometimes called it, then awesome things happened. Or as Prabhupada said, the pure devotee doesn't do anything extraordinary, but extraordinary things take place all around him. Like Shyam Sundar's connecting with George Harrison. I mean, that's an extraordinary thing. The whole world is sitting or waiting at his door, but by the genius of and the inspiration, enthusiasm of Shyam Sundar, Krishna opened the door for him. So that and Prabhupada also, one thing that always struck me about Prabhupada, that there's no harm in trying, because you can, and the case in point is in Montreal there was a big building right across from McGill University. And at that time we had no money, we could hardly pay the rent. And Prabhupada saw this building and he liked this building. He told Janardhan, inquire about this building, what do they want for it? And Janardhan said, well, it's got to be more than $1 million. He said, just inquire. Tell them we have $10,000 and we'll pay them $1,000 a month. And Janardhan, of course that's an absurd proposal, or business from a business point of view. And at the same time he asked me, he noticed that the downstairs had kind of a store facility where you could have a shop or a restaurant. So he asked me whether I would be capable and willing to run a restaurant and whether I could generate $1,000 a month profit. I said, well, I guess I could. And so Prabhupada urged Janardhan to find out, to contact the government, it was a government building, and make this offer. But Janardhan was reluctant because it just didn't seem realistic. We never did get the building, but that was how Prabhupada saw that Krishna can do anything. So, in fact, because I often used to be worried about money, he used to tell me, he said, don't worry about money. Try to do something wonderful for Krishna and money will come. And that really was the basis of his, that was his policy, that was his theme, the basis of his operation. I mean, after all, Prabhupada came to America with nothing. And